Hi, welcome to our third episode of the Beatles Sites around London. In this episode we're going to be covering a very important former record store in Oxford Street. We're also going to be covering a jeweller's shop and maybe even one or two other things. So let's go, moving right on with more Beatles Sites in London. Thanks a lot, bye. Okay, well, here we are, as you can see, in Jermyn Street, and there's several bits of Beatle history in Jermyn Street. This is where John and Paul bumped into Mick Jagger and Keith Richard of the Rolling Stones, and there's a lot of talk in the 60s of great rivalry between the Beatles and the Stones. And of course this was true. There were two young bands eagerly trying to make it in the world of pop music and being very successful. But there was no great rivalry or animosity. That was all newspaper talk. In actual fact, the Beatles and the Stones were great friends. And John and Paul met up with Keith Richards and Mick Jagger here in Jermyn Street. And they went off and had a drink together, the four of them. And they're talking about this and that and having a drink, etc. And Mick or Keith said to John or Paul, have you got any songs you don't want? Any songs you're not using? And they said no. And carried on chatting for a little bit longer. Then they left. John and Paul left. And they're walking up the road and they said, hang on a second, what's that song we've got, I Want to Be Your Man? Maybe they could have that one. And so they went back into the pub and met up with Mick and Keith again and offered them I Want to Be Your Man, and of course it was a success for them. And so that's how the Rolling Stones come to record Lennon and McCartney's I Want to Be Your Man. Okay, moving on, we are still in Jermyn Street, and as you can see, this shop in front of us is called Waterstone's Bookshop. But back in the 60s, this used to be Simpson's clothes shop, and because the Beatles were always being chased around by fans, Beatlemania and all that, they couldn't do their shopping for clothes during the daytime, so Simpson's used to open for them at night. So the Beatles used to go shopping for their clothes in Simpson's in the evening time when the shop was shut and it was a bit quieter. Okay, well, now you can see that we are in New Bond Street. Now, to those of you that have seen the second feature film the Beatles made called Help, may recognise this next item, because the basic story of the film is that the Ringo is sent a ring by a fan. Obviously he puts it on his finger. He's not called Ringo for nothing. But what he doesn't know is that the ring is a sacrificial ring. And for the next hour and a half, the boys run around trying to get the ring removed from Ringo's finger. Well, one of the places they visit is a jeweller's, and the jeweller's is in New Bond Street here, and it's called Asprey's. And it's a great line in the film, well, one of them anyway for me, was when John says,
"Jeweller, you're not getting anywhere, are you, jeweller?"
Early days yet, sir.
This is the front entrance today, but in a second you'll see how it looked and you'll see the Beatles run in. Legend has it that on the day of filming the fans were hanging around as usual, and the Beatles were being chased about as usual, and John had to run through the shop, and in the brief time it took him to get through, apparently he's supposed to have spent £10,000. Whether that story is true or not, I don't know, but sounds pretty good to me. Okay, moving right along with the Beatles Sites in London. Now, the shop in front of you is Foot Locker, as you can see. And this building contains some really serious Beatles history. For me, this building is the most important one of the lot. Right now, it's a sports shop that sells trainers, etc., etc. But some 46 years ago, this used to be the HMV shop, and it was in this building, at the basement, they had a cutting room, and they used to cut 78 RPM discs here. And it was here that the Beatles cut their demo disc for HMV. So this building is really responsible, or what happened in this building is responsible for everything else, because it was here that the Beatles got their recording contract. So it's this building and what went on at this building that is responsible for everything. Okay, for those of you that can't actually read what the plaque says, it says, site of the original HMV store opened by Sir Edward Elgar in July 1921. The HMV store shaped the way people bought music for nearly a century. In 1962 it played a significant role in the career of the Beatles. A 78 RPM demo disc of the band was cut in the store's recording studio. This led to the Beatles' long-term recording contract with EMI. And the plaque was opened by Sir George Martin, CBE, on the 26th of April 2000.